Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you probably expected at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we have basically managed able to continue exploring for the forms of Chaos Island and able to actually obtain the rest of the forms of the new Cocos, and despite the fact that we actually almost completed everything for the sake of the forms of one of those big fishing spots, but as a result for that kind of stuff though about the fact that don't worry, we will be back for that eventually once we're done with the forms of some other stuff first. So because of that though, in addition to that, we also managed able to obtain every single musical note during the forms of Ouranos Island, and potentially speaking, that was going to be the final time we're going to be seeing that particular island, because as I said before, there's not much content aside from the fact that you're able to only get music notes and that's it. So today for this video is about the fact that, well...
You were created by Eggman, right?
Correct. My base code was compiled by him. The scope of my capabilities was vastly modified once I integrated with cyberspace, but he is my creator.
Oh man, I bet he never expected his genius AI would advise him to work with me.
I put forward this scenario with the highest likelihood for survival. That is all.
Anyway, I apologize for that particular cutscene interruption right there, but that's just because about the fact that I'm pretty sure that we've almost finishing up everything for the sake of the forms of those side stories. So anyway, as I was saying, today for this video is about the fact that we'll be able to actually do some more stuff during the forms of Ouranos Island to able to grab not only the last few new Cocos, but also, as I said before, we're able to actually go ahead and say this right now, we're most able to actually wrap things up everything for the likes of the forms of those side stories, basically. So because of that, though, that's essentially what I was going to be doing for the sake of time. So, either way, a few things I want to explain for this point today, before we get into the actual main topic at this point today. Today's date, of course, is I would say it is the 3rd of August today, in this case in 2023 today. I was expecting my hopes for that particular discussion at this point today, which involves around the forms of the actual updated Switch sales, but I'm sure enough though about the fact that we'll have to wait until it at some point. In the middle portion of August, or somewhere earliest point in August, but either way though, chances are though about the fact that we shall definitely see what happens due time, especially noticeable because concerning about that particular point that hopefully we'll find out some more details about the forms of the actual Switch sales updates for not only for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, as well as the forms of Metroid Prime Remastered, and especially noticeable for Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and so much more. The only exception we're probably not going to mention about, and that's what appears to be Pikmin 4, because they're only going to be able to actually bring out the actual data mined for the likes of the forms of the actual updated Switch sales, based on from the likes of the forms of June 2023, specifically by the end of June 2023. And exponentially speaking though, it might be possible that Pikmin 1 plus 2 might be included, but, well, then again, we'll find out more details about that, assuming, of course, about the fact that that will be updated by that time, especially concerning about that particular point where, obviously about the fact that maybe Tiana will be able to mention more details about that, or even Ray the Flying Squirrel will possibly mention more about that as well. So, but either way, though, again, we'll find out. So, for now on, though, as you can tell, we're about to be going back into the forms of big fishing again, except this time in a different location and stuff like that. It's just in case about the fact that I can able to exponentially try to able to fully level up not only strength, but also with defense as well. So, exponentially, we can now able to actually dish out as many of those Guardians as quickly as possible and all that stuff. So, but either way, though, that must have been said something. So, anyway, though, there are some few topics I would like to point things out for just for recently, about the fact, no matter what, though, is that recently, that the Super Mario Bros. Wonder did able to actually mention the game's villain, thanks to the forms of the ESRB rating board, Now, as a result of that particular point, don't be too surprised about this, especially notable, it might be like nothing special or anything else like that, just like the forms of how it does it on most modern Mario games nowadays. So, exponentially speaking though, it says in this full description saying that this is a platformer game in which players control characters from the Mario universe as they try to stop the villain Bowser. Players traverse whimsical environments while jumping on enemies' heads, throwing shells, objects at them, or tossing small fireballs to knock them off screen. Boss battles contain more involved combat against giant enemies that breath fire and smash parts of the scenery. So, yeah, at least I was pretty interested with the forms of how the actual the boss battles is going to play out to be. But regardless of such though, it's about the fact that there's no surprise that Bowser is once again the main antagonist ever since in the forms of well, most of those Mario games, since Super Mario Odyssey, and also Super Mario 3D World, and you probably name the rest. But, at the very least, the coolest addition about this, though, is that no need for capturing Princess Peach for Damsel in Distress, because obviously, similar to Super Mario 3D World, that Peach was obviously a playable character in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, along with Princess Daisy as well. So, but either way though, that was actually super cool and everything. Especially, I love the fact that in some Mario games, on the Switch anyway, at the very least that Princess Peach never gets kidnapped, although the only time that she does get kidnapped, which appears to be by the forms of, well, the majority of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, because of obviously with Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, and especially noticeable with the forms of Super Mario Odyssey, and especially noticeable with New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. So, it is even weird about the fact in Super Mario Maker 2 that rather than Bowser kidnaps Peach, but rather Bowser kidnaps Toadette. So because of that though, kind of an interesting twist, as far as, you know, Damsel in Distress as far as this is concerned. Although despite the fact that you can still able to play as Toadette in the forms of Super Mario Maker 2, relatively speaking. So because of that though, anyway, enough about that particular point, worth noting for. Recently about that particular point where the fact that, unfortunately though, about the fact that one of the actors dies recently, which as a result he was about, I would say 70 years old or something like that. Yeah, he's roughly 70, and he's actually best known for as Pee Wee Herman as a puppet.
I had secured Dr. Eggman in cyberspace to protect him from the impending destruction. I had hoped to keep out external variables as well. You were not meant to come here.
Yeah, I figured that out. I understand now why you locked my friends in the cyber cages and fought me. I wasn't exactly going to leave the Titans alone either. It's too late for an I'm sorry from either of us. Better to focus on making things right.
So yeah, as I said before, it is kind of unfortunate that he passed away recently due to the forms of the cancer. So because of that though, yeah, it seems kind of sucks. So, anywho though, there's also another thing I should probably explain about this as well. About the fact, no matter what though, is that unfortunately though, I have to point things out, is about the fact that I will say, unhappy 10th anniversary of the release of the live-action Smurfs movie called The Smurfs 2, which as a result, I just cannot even believe that film exists after 10 years ago since when it first came out on a big screen. Well, luckily I didn't see it on day one, luckily though, because obviously you know how the fact that sometimes live-action movies based off from popular TV series back in the day just doesn't mash well to me though. But either way, so as you can see, we've now fully leveled up our strength as well as defense, meaning about the fact that we don't need to worry about just trying to able to keep on collecting more of those red seed of power, and especially noticeable with blue seed of defense. So we're now overly powered. So because of that though, yeah, I felt a little bit more confident for myself. Especially noticeable about that particular point where, although we still haven't exactly done with the actual boost gauge just yet though, because like I said before, we'll try our best if we're able to actually get all the new Cocos.
The ancients came to this world tens of thousands of years ago. The planet was still underdeveloped back then, and their technology was vastly superior to anything else at the time.
I knew it felt different at the time, but the fact that it was really alien was surprising. The floating building, giant structures, cyberspace. It didn't make sense that such advanced stuff was also super old. But it all came from space, so, well, there you go, I guess.
What would this world look like if the ancients had survived, I wonder? Under different circumstances, I would enjoy running the simulations.
So anyway, speaking of which though, when it comes to the Smurfs 2, while looking back on the actual film, it still looks pretty bad. I don't know why do I say this, but relatively speaking, it's a good thing I skipped that particular film entirely though, just because about the fact that I was pretty excited able to actually see Monsters University a lot more back in the films of in 2013 regardless. So but either way though, I just want to get this out of the way because relatively speaking though, that film, The Smurfs 2, looks super duper horrendous.
Once the ancients landed on this world, they cultivated the islands to be their new home. This place in particular was meant for prayer and reflection. They hoped to live in peace. When they learned their enemy had followed them here, they prepared to defend this world. The walls, cannons, towers, all for a desperate last stand.
That explains all the stuff I've seen on the run. I wondered if they were preparing for a fight. Now I know.
This is where the ancients would gather to simply be together, to cherish those who were left. That is why they recorded everything. Their history, their aspirations, their hopes, their dreams, so they would never be truly gone.
Anyway, enough about that particular topic, because I just don't want to talk about the Smurfs 2 anymore. But that's just because we decided able to move on to another topic at this point today. That will have to be about that particular point where we got ourselves a recent update in terms of the films of the box office records for certain films recently, during the course of in 2023, as a matter of fact. Basically about the fact no matter what though, you know what the films of the new Barbie film just recently came out for about a couple of days ago now? Well, almost 2 weeks ago as a matter of fact. Apparently though, that particular film's box office record was actually on 3rd place right now. Well, at least I thought so anyway. So because of that though, it did somehow beat in not only from the likes of the films of Fall River Red, as well as the films of The Wandering Earth 2, and especially notable with Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and especially notable with Lost in the Stars, and especially notable with the films of Fast X, and especially notable with the films of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and let's not forget ourselves with the films of this horrendous live-action version of The Little Mermaid, which as a result of that kind of stuff though, I was very surprised about the fact that the Barbie movie did turn out to be super successful, which as a result, I was quite surprised by that. So even then though, I'm not exactly sure if I was going to be able to see it with the Silver and Shadow of course, because I know for a fact that Shadow doesn't really like cutie stuff as much, but I did spoke to Shadow about the fact that it does have some bit of adult themes to it though, and something tells me I need to somehow clip for that particular new Coco right there, which is kind of bizarre, but on the upside of this though is about the fact that we did somehow complete it. That particular tough obstacle, no problem, so beneath a weight though, and it seems about the fact that I'll just try to go ahead and go after that next new Coco onto that specific spot right there. Sometimes I will admit though right away is that the lighting effects can become all over the place depending on what weather conditions and time does it go by, so beneath a weight though, oh, okay, so it looks like we actually come across into a bit of a climbing tower syndrome. So basically it's about the fact that we need to carefully try to able to climb up and don't fall off in the process, because you know what happens if you dare fall off, you have to start all over again, so. But at least I pretty much got used to with this, especially concerning about that particular point where, well, you know what I'm saying about the fact that no matter what though, it's been about 2 days ago since I actually have last played this for sure, because as I said before, recently Tiana just finally come back onto Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe exponentially, so just in case about the fact no matter what though, we can pretty much guarantee we can able to actually continue things off for the sake of the faults of the current Let's Plays for the time being. Although, speaking of some current Let's Plays as far as this is concerned, something tells me about the fact that particular points where basically though is about the fact that I'm afraid to tell you is about the fact that Silver the Hedgehog needs to able to delay some more parts during the forms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, but that's just because about the fact that, well, as far as with Tiana, she's already mentioned about this ever since in yesterday's Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, where basically it's about the fact that he's not usually ready for able to take on the hardest challenge, which appears to be the Master level in Super Monkey Ball 2 challenge mode. But exponentially speaking though is about the fact that the good news about this is though that he's almost finishing up everything for the sake of the forms of Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania before we move on to the forms of the next few Super Monkey Ball games left. Which as a result of that kind of stuff though, I still kind of believe by saying is about the fact that we've almost finishing up the entire Super Monkey Ball game series before we move on to other franchises, like, for instance, about the fact that imagine if we pretty much done with the most of the majority of the Super Monkey Ball games, then we can pretty much guarantee able to continue ourselves not only, let's just say, some more Metroid stuff, but also with the forms of the Legend of Zelda stuff as well. Apart from a couple of exceptions, mind you, because obviously about the fact that I could imagine about the fact that we can pretty much able to actually continue our lifespan or something like that in the future time, but I'm sure we're able to live as long as about the fact that if some complications are involved. So, but either way, oh jeez, this one is actually pretty tricky because you have to time your jumps carefully while at the same time trying to jump off of this particular wire bar or something like that. So just to ensure about the fact that you don't able to screw this up, because if you do screw up, obviously you have to start all over again, obviously, so. And as you can tell about the fact that the actual background music in the background you might be familiar with, which is obviously based off from Sonic Heroes called Frog Forest. So, pretty cool track though, I'm not gonna lie, because as a result, it does manage to fit the actual environment quite nicely, especially concerning about that particular point where, despite the fact that we actually realize about the fact that the actual Grey clouds start able to show up every now and then, because as I said before, it's about the fact that sometimes the weather conditions can sometimes, you know, feel a bit random at times, but it doesn't usually affect on the gameplay too much though, it's just for the forms of the aesthetics and stuff like that, so yeah, that might be a primal reason for that, so. And exponentially speaking though, it's about the fact that since after all, that we can able to actually, like, you know, finish up every single, like, side stories and during the forms of this particular island itself, and exponentially about the fact that we don't need to worry about just keep on collecting the forms of those memory tokens when it comes to obtaining, you know, some more of those side stories to unlock, although aside from the fact that I have to do this painful task anyway, so just in case I just want to get this out of the way, just in case about the fact that there's going to be a special reward if you do manage to not only obtain every single memory tokens in each and every single island, but also view every single side stories, and especially noticeable with the forms of, well, pretty much everything, including by the forms of catching every single fishes in the Big the Cat's fishing spots, and especially noticeable just to complete every single action chain challenges and all that stuff. So again, it's just definitely multitasking for sure. Even though, potentially speaking though, about the fact that, imagine by saying this, about the fact that, well, it comes to the forms of everything else I could possibly say about this, about the fact that, well, relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that what I found out, when it comes to the forms of the actual status, for the sake of the forms of Lego Eggman, or Lego Dr. Eggman, during the course of the, you know, Sonic Forces Speed battle. Apparently though, they did say about the fact that Lego Dr. Eggman is faster than Super Silver, apparently, when it comes to the forms of the status. Like, for instance, when it comes to his speed of Lego Dr. Eggman, it was actually 9 out of 10 for speed, and 7 out of 10 for acceleration, and strength is obviously 6 out of 10. So because of that though, compared to the forms of Super Silver, it was actually kind of a mixed bag status. So, not only why I managed able to bring this up anyway, but that's just how the fact I was able to classify that. So, oh, and another thing too, about the fact that when it comes to Elemental, as far as this is concerned, breaking news when it comes to the forms of the Elemental film, it did somehow now becomes the highest grossing original film since the pandemic year. So, at the very least, that Elemental is actually getting pretty decent. Well, as far as I'm aware about the fact that, well, at least potentially speaking, unlike Lightyear, Turning Red, as well as the forms of Soul, and especially noticeable with maybe Luca as well, that they all managed able to suffer the forms of a lot of box office bomb just because about the fact that not only because it's released during the forms within the pandemic years, but it's also about the fact that they're going on to streaming services instead. So because of that though, gee, no wonder why about the fact that the actual, like, certain Pixar films nowadays seems to have a lot of trouble with the forms of box office situations, so...
You can't just take control of that last Titan, can you?
I have made multiple attempts, but all failed.
And this is the last one, right? I don't want any more surprises.
I can confirm only 4 were constructed.
Now then, let's do it to it. We're out of time. We've got to save everyone, everywhere.
And if I recall correctly, about the fact that we actually conclude every single side stories. Now, aside from the fact that we can able to actually have a chat with Sage for the final time, before we get into the forms of the final portion of the game, although, then again though, we'll save the finale portion until for later, just because about the fact no matter what though, we need to take care of the multiple stuff here and there, including by the forms of every single musical note we need to obtain, and somehow about the fact no matter what though, about the fact that when it comes to everything else I could probably say about this at this point, let me go ahead and try to able to get this part out of the way before we deal with the rest of the stuff.
There is a Chaos Emerald inside. Your power is required to access it.
First, we gotta open that door. Are you good with hanging around? I thought you were supposed to be looking after Eggman while he helps hunt down the emeralds.
I will be at his side when he needs me. For now, we must focus on the task at hand. Use your power to start the system. Hurry, our time is limited.
And just like the forms of how it does it in not only in Chaos Island, but also in the bridge section during the forms of Ouranos Island, we need to once again get out able to activate this particular monitor thingy right there, just in case we can able to actually just beat this particular, whatever this cyber virus or whatever that's supposed to be. And exponentially we need to do the same thing as per usual, except now about the fact that this is where the game starts to get a bit tough at some form or another, because now they're able to actually decide able to add some more enemies to the table. Especially noticeable, you do need to able to avoid these things at all costs. And on top of all that stuff though, about the fact that, well, just exponentially speaking, I highly recommend you able to try to able to get rid of some of these enemies and leave one of them out, so just in case you can able to... Oh Jesus Louise! And this is what I mean about the fact that I will have to admit though right away, is that the super final boss in the game might actually felt a bit lackluster to me though, but then again though, we'll probably get into more details about that particular topic once we're able to done with the forms of some side content as far as this is concerned. So anyway, let me go ahead and... Oh, dang it! I lost 1 life. But then again though, if you lost both of the lives, basically though you have to start all over again with this particular process, which, again, when I first experienced this, it took me a couple of tries on the Switch version, but as a result of that particular points worth noting for, I'm sort of getting used to it. So there we go, we've now managed able to complete this particular thing itself for the 3rd time, and as a result we can now able to actually access to the, well, exponentially, the 6th Chaos Emerald in during forms of Ouranos Island, but exponentially we'll get ourselves the 7th one, well, during the ending portion of this particular island, so to speak. So either way, but as I said before, we're probably not going to do that just yet, because obviously we need to take care of a lot of stuff first. So either way, and open sesame when it comes to the forms of this particular door itself, and now we can able to progress.
Emerald number 6, here we come. So, earlier you said I had 0 chances of winning. Change your mind yet?
No. But I have not run a simulation on our present circumstances either.
Ah, yeah. So, you're saying there maybe is a chance.
I am saying we are in a desperate situation. The threat we face is beyond imagination.
Hey, if there's even a 1% chance I can turn that despair of yours into hope, I won't disappoint.
But as I said before, we're probably not going to go in there just yet, because if you did manage to obtain the 6th Chaos Emerald, you'll be forced to able to go into that particular let's just say, the final Titan fight. So because of that, though, yeah, we're gonna be able to save that for later. So either way, there's also another topic I should probably explain about this as well. It's about the fact that, thank God, I finally managed able to get myself a yet another color for the likes of the forms of one of those characters in particular from Mario Kart Tour, where it comes to the forms of, you know, at least win something for the sake of the forms of that God-forsaken tier system in Mario Kart Tour. And as a result, I finally managed to get myself Yellow Yoshi for the sake of the forms of a Mario Kart Tour game. Because as a result for that particular point where, thank God, at least potentially speaking though, is about the fact that I love the frenzy system sometimes. Although sometimes it doesn't like me multiple times throughout the game, because sometimes it just doesn't feel like it was trying to be activated. Assuming of course about the fact that you do need to recommend trying to able to level up your character, or driver for that matter. And same applies with the forms of, you know, certain cards and gliders, which that might actually help us out. But sometimes it feels incredibly luck-based at times. So, but that's the way I usually say about this, I guess. So, but at the very least though, I'm very grateful to able to actually get myself a new color scheme for Yoshi at the very least. So, in Mario Kart Tour's case. So, next potentially about the fact that we might able to actually hear some more details about the forms of this next tour coming up for Mario Kart Tour tomorrow. So I'm not exactly sure what that usually might as well contain, but I'm sure that we'll let either Ray or Tiana will able to explain more details about that particular topic during at some point in the next couple of days worth noting for. But either way though, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, but anyway though, I suppose the final thing I should probably explain about this as well, and that's what appears to be about the fact that recently we actually received some new zone names, specifically based off from, you know, Sonic Superstars, because as far as I'm aware, as they say before, they will promise they are able to actually bring brand new zones to the table, not so much rehash levels from Sonic's past. So, relatively speaking though, about the fact that we already know about the fact that what those two names, when it comes to the first two zones that we've already know about, ever since after when the game has been revealed, ever since in Summer Game Fest after all. Like, for instance, that they've already mentioned about the forms of two zones in particular, which there are Bridge Island, as well as Speed Jungle zones, and exponentially that will be about it. And also they somehow revealed some more names for certain zones. Like, for instance, they've mentioned Sky Temple, Pinball Carnival, Lagoon City, Sand Century, Press Factory, which is basically kind of like the equivalent to Press Garden from the likes of the forms of Sonic Mania, except they now call it like Press Factory, and finally Golden Capital. So because of that though, I have no idea why I said things a little bit opposite, but that's just because about the fact that it's been quite a while since we actually last heard about the forms of Sonic Superstars. And exponentially speaking though, about the fact that we're still waiting for the forms of the actual release date, which I'm guessing about the fact that it's still about to be able to be scheduled in during either October, roughly the same month as Super Mario Bros. Wonder, or November, or December, depending on the forms of, you know, games releases during that time. So, but then again, we'll find out and see what happens in due time. So, but I'm very excited able to actually know about the forms of what certain zones will be like. Well, I definitely already know for the fact that we already seen a brief footage of Pinball Carnival, thanks to the forms of one of those Nintendo Direct footage, based on the forms of in 21st of June in 2023, regardless. So, but either way, though, that was saying something as far as this is concerned. And also, in addition to that about the fact that no matter what, though, I think that's as far as I can talk about, in terms of the forms of some new zone names in particular, what they did somehow manage to able to reveal during that time. So, but either way, though, that was actually like, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty excited to see how that's gonna turn out to be, especially concerning about that particular point where, well, you know what I'm saying. So, anyways, as I said before about the fact that unfortunately though, the Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania continuation Let's Play is going to be delayed at some point in God knows when. But that's just because about the fact that in addition to me need able to like continue things on with the forms of Sonic Frontiers, and also about the fact that like what Tiana and I have already explained about this earlier, that Silver is not ready for the forms of Super Monkey Ball 2 Master level. That's just because about the fact that he just died a lot of times, or potentially speaking, he falls off a lot of times during the forms of the majority of the master levels for the sake of Super Monkey Ball 2, which as a result, it is definitely the most difficult stages of the bunch, which just like the forms of Super Monkey Ball 1 master levels, but at the very least in Super Monkey Ball 1 master levels, some of them are actually easy, like for instance with Dance Master is actually now slowing down, and especially noticeable with the forms of Dodge Master as well, but exponentially speaking though, and same applies with the forms of Monkey Master as well, and even Bridge Master as a matter of fact, because you can able to now skip the actual shortcut without needing to worry about just trying to able to keep on pausing the game in that particular trick for that matter, unlike in Super Monkey Ball 1, as well as Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, that you have to utilize the pause trick in order able to actually go from one place to the other. So, yeah, you probably get the idea about that. So, but anyways, folks, we've now managed able to completely done with every single, like, new Coco challenges around here. So that means we've now got ourselves about 5 boost wheels. So either way, that's actually super dope and everything. And you're probably wondering about the fact that it looks, you know, it looks very similar to the stamina meter from the, you know, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which I've already pointed things out already, so there's no explanations for that ever again, especially concerning about that particular point that you guys should probably already know, and for whatever reason, I just somehow lost control of myself almost, but that's just because about the fact that I was expecting to able to try to focus on trying to able to obtain as many of those memory tokens as much as possible, but exponentially I didn't exactly pay attention to that, so whoops. So anyways, from now on, let's just go ahead and change the music as you can tell, and then this time we're going to be able to listen to Misty Lake, which as a result is obviously based off from Sonic and the Black Knight, in this case the very first level in Sonic and the Black Knight, which I can't believe by saying this is about the fact that, let's just say, by that particular point where I just missed, and I died again. Oh jeez, there are a couple of death situations sometimes, especially noticeable because I didn't pay attention to that moving wall shifting right there. But that's okay though, because we're now on to Sunny Day and stuff like that, and especially noticeable at that particular point where at the very least we can able to skip some portions on this particular obstacle, so yeah, that's just saying something. Alright, so let's just do it for the... There we go. Now we've actually got ourselves that particular memory token. So, anyway, that I can't even believe by saying this is about the fact that by that time until the beginning portion of 2024, that Sonic and the Black Knight will eventually become 15 years old, which I can't even believe that time flies all of a sudden. And on top of all that stuff, though, is about the fact that that could be also applies for the forms of certain new play control lineup for the Nintendo Wii games, as far as I'm concerned, which are Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2, Mario Power Tennis, and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, and same applies with the forms of Metroid Prime 1 and 2 Echoes, especially noticeable because usually in the Japanese version they do manage able to contain separate packages or separate releases between Metroid Prime 1 and Metroid Prime 2 Dark Echoes, as far as what the Japanese game or the Japanese name of the game is actually calls it there. Even though it's kind of tricky to explain because it's been a very long while since I actually mentioned something related to Metroid stuff since in, oh jeez, okay, that was close. Because thankfully, if I was trying to able to do a pray pose, that way I don't usually lose all of my rings, or some of my rings for that matter. And exponentially speaking though, is about the fact that we don't need to worry about keep on getting hit a lot, especially noticeable because, you know, we've fully maxed out our, you know, defense, so that way we don't need to worry about losing all of our rings. Well, the only time exception to this though is of course if we get into the forms of the, you know, the final Titan fight, then obviously about the fact that your rings will be depleted by then. And that's another example of why that I'm probably not going to do the final Titan battle yet, but that's just because I do need to max out all of my rings, so just in case I can able to just get that out of the way, so just in case I can pretty much guarantee to able to... Oh jeez, I somehow did not realize I lost control of myself again, but that's just because about the fact that I could have swear I pretty much used to just try to able to pull off some nice little like shortcuts or anything else to be more specific, but either way though, sometimes it takes a bit of a while to try to get used to with all that platforming segments from time to time. But then again though, thankfully with those place markers, thankfully if you try to place certain markers in journey forms of some memory token locations, and obviously about the fact that once you obtain them, then you don't have to necessarily worry about trying to obtain them again. Assuming of course about the fact that, well, exponentially we don't need to worry about just trying to able to buy something for big when it comes to like trading tokens and stuff like that anymore, because, well, exponentially speaking though, that we become overpowered during that time. Like, you know, we fully leveled up everything, including we able to actually obtain every single like skills, and especially noticeable just anything else in general. And exponentially speaking, we don't need to worry about keep on obtaining more of those Cocos. And that's a good thing about the fact that with that particular patch update, they finally managed able to address something with that particular tiny issue. Whenever you try to able to level up something like, you know, with the ring capacity and the speed limits, that basically though, if you try to keep on asking the forms of Elder Coco, they only have to ask one thing at a time rather than just try to able to go for the majority of the leveling up system. But even then no, again it's a bit tricky to explain because it's been about roughly 2 days ago since I actually you know, last played this, so man, I really love the forms of the Misty-like theme music in the background, which is especially noticeable at that particular point where they obviously keep on bringing that particular music back from the likes of the forms of not only, let's just say, during the forms of Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games, as well as the forms of Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games, and especially noticeable with Rio 2016 Olympic Games. Well, the only exception to this though is Tokyo 2020, that's just because for whatever reason that game never brings back the classic tunes from not only from the Mario franchise, but also with the Sonic franchise as well. Maybe they'll try to fix that for the sake of Paris 2024, but then again no, we'll have to wait and find out until if that game either exists or not, so... But then again, we'll have to wait and find out, and during at some point, once the final general Nintendo Direct will exist, during at some point in this particular year itself, before we move on to 2024, and suffice to say, that we've only got roughly about 5 months left now, until specifically we'll move on to 2024, until by that time where, you know, Paris Olympic Games is going to take place. So, but even then though, I'm very super duper excited about this, especially noticeable because the last time I actually watched something relates to the forms of Summer Olympics was actually back in 2021, because obviously that particular Tokyo Olympics was originally planned in 2020, but of course that being pushed back due to the forms of the pandemic, so... But anyway though, so either way, and it seems about the fact that we still already maxed out our, you know, skill points and stuff like that. Oh, dang it. I can't believe that spike ball somehow screws me up. But that's okay though, because we can just simply keep on trying it again, so... Anyway, as far as what, Tiana, she's already explained about this, ever since the journey forms have been Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, you already know about the fact that recently we've now fully 100% everything on the likes of Super Monkey Ball on the Nokia N-Gage, which despite the fact that that game is super duper short and also it's lacking replayability, which as a result, because it only features just only single player experience, and on top of that, limited soundtrack, and on top of all that stuff though, I can assure you it only contains one racetrack and also no multiplayer, which unlike any forms of Super Monkey Ball Jr. does have multiplayer, but as a result of that particular stuff worth noting for, I just have no words to think about of how come the forms of that particular point where Monkey Ball on the Nokia N-Gage does not have any multiplayer elements, so, which that's probably is the reason why that the Nokia N-Gage somehow flopped, because of the forms of the lack of multiplayer. Well, there is also online multiplayer, but the actual servers has been shut down ever since. I have no idea when does the actual, the online services has been shut down for the Nokia N-Gage. In fact, let me know in the comments down below of how many, of which specific year does the actual services shut down. for Nokia N-Gage as far as this is concerned, because I know for a fact that Crash Nitro Kart does have online multiplayer stuff, but as I said before, the service is shut down, so... But either way, I suppose that I should probably go back onto Sonic N eventually, so I can able to actually try my best able to obtain every single Chaos Emerald and Trinity forms of Sonic N. But as far as you probably already know about the fact that Sonic N is basically just the N-Gage Nokia N-Gage port of Sonic Advance with a different screen aspect ratio. In addition to that though, with the forms of some very weird sound effects, like it just sounds a bit off at points. At the very least, the music is still the same, but it's just about the fact that every time when you select something on your character selection screen, or perhaps even maybe if you keep on collecting rings or something, obviously the sound effect sounds way too off. And believe me, if I was expecting to do Special Stage 7 on Sonic N, my god, it will be pretty nauseating. So because of that though, yeah, I have no idea why I'm about to be going back to Sonic N eventually for the Nokia N-Gage, because at this point in time is about the fact that I rarely touch upon the Nokia N-Gage for quite some time, but at the very least on the upside is though is that once we finish up with Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, then we can probably dive right into Super Monkey Ball on the Nokia N-Gage, just around that time when that particular game is going to be eventually become, you know, 20 years old during that time, which, yeah, that particular topic can wait, so... But either way, aside from all that stuff though, I think that's as far as I can talk about this at this point, guys. Although, then again, I would have liked able to explain off what's going to be happening next. For the sake of the forms of the Mario Kart Tour's next, tour is about to be on the horizon. Like, I know for a fact that they're trying to able to actually bring up the forms of the 102nd tour that we're about to be getting into, because I can't believe by saying this, we're now on to, almost approaching onto, you know, 102nd tour, because as far as I'm aware, we're now on to, we're still on 101 tours so far for Mario Kart Tour's case. But either way though, that'll be a topic for a later video, especially noticeable because concerning about that particular point where, again, there's not much else I can talk about. So, for now on, let me go ahead and take on the forms of the Ghost Guardian quickly, so just in case we can able to, you know, kill all sorts of those Guardians before we're able to just... Oh jeez, I somehow lost footing right there, but that's fine, because thankfully there was actually that particular recovery part that you can able to actually get up there somehow without needing to worry about just starting all over again in the beginning. So we can able to actually just create a side loop onto those specific statue structures, and that way we can able to actually dish out that particular amount of damage to the actual ghost itself. But either way though, that's all I can really talk about the forms of today's discussion for this point, folks. Although, exponentially speaking though, it's about the fact that when it comes to everything else I could possibly explain about this, is about the fact that when it comes to uploading schedules in general, that's obviously Sonic Frontiers is still going to be up on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the time being, and on top of that, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe is now going to be back on to Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for now. And as far as Super Mario RPG, as far as this is concerned, that Ray has sort of almost got confused by it. That I think he might try to able to keep on playing Super Mario RPG in a weekend anyway. So just in case about the fact that we can able to actually caught up for the likes of the forms of uploading schedules during that specific period. Oh, Jesus Louise! Jeez, things can get a little bit more hectic at that one point. I couldn't imagine if I was trying to play the game on extreme difficulty. My god, it will be too much for my liking, so... But either way, we approached ourselves into the final statue thing right there, and there goes the forms of the Ghost Guardian, which at this point it brings us to the forms of that particular portal gear, which again, there's no need to able to collect some more portal gears at this point, because you know, we've already completed every single cyberspace segment. So anyway, despite the fact that I'm almost finishing up the forms of that particular island, and same applies with Ouranos Island and all the other islands in general, let me quickly go back into Ouranos Island quickly, so just in case about the fact that I just want to get the actual action chain challenges out the way. Although, mind you, we've already done one of them, which actually contains the S rank, which as a result is super fantastic. So, yeah, I'll try my best able to actually complete most of those action chain challenges. And if I failed, to able to actually get the S rank from it, then obviously I can able to actually do a massive edit skills when it comes to likely doing all sorts of stuff here and there. So, and exponentially, this will be the final time we're going to be able to be seeing Ouranos Island at some point until next Tuesday, potentially speaking. So let me just sort out with this jukebox quickly, so just in case which specific music it will be perfectly fitted for the sake of the forms of Ouranos Island. I think it's going to be Emerald Coast Act 1. So, exponentially, I think, relatively speaking, I think we should probably be ending off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers. And that's what appears to be about the fact that we'll decide to go ahead and do the action chain challenges in junior forms of Ouranos Island. So, I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Later, fellas.